2025 marks the 200th anniversary of the opening of the Erie Canal, which created a navigable connection between the Great Lakes and New York City. Dr. Matthew Smith, professor of history at Miami University of Ohio, wrote about the canal for The Conversation, and Great Lakes Now news editor Lisa John Rogers spoke with him about the origin and impact of this crucial waterway.
So just to start us off, can you tell us why the canal was built in the first place?
So the construction of the canal was really quite a remarkable thing in the context of really is the beginning of the American Industrial Revolution. And it was really, I think, the identification of a logistical challenge that faced the state of New York. So, for example, it would have taken something like 5 to 6 weeks traveling overland to have traveled from New York City in the year 1800 and to have gone to Southwest Ohio, where I am right now. So you have this governor of New York State, DeWitt Clinton, in the early 1800s, who has the vision to build something which was not a new technology, but was new on that scale in the United States. That's to say, an artificial waterway that would have connected New York City via the Hudson River to Albany, and then by canal to Buffalo and Lake Erie. And it's that connection of the waterways. The Great Lakes, of course, as your viewers know, are central to the economy today of the United States. But connecting that to the Atlantic in the early 1800s, that was the challenge.
The Erie Canal didn't just move products, it moved people and ideas, and I'm wondering how it helped shape the American identity.
I think, times of industrial and especially technological upheaval are also times of great cultural anxiety. And that's something that we see very much in our own time. And, just talking to my students, I always try and make these connections between the past and the present. In the early 19th century, as these canal towns were filling up, as the region was being populated by immigrants, also, I should say, as the land was being dispossessed from its native peoples, and you see this kind of cultural upheaval, and it's like the ground is being plowed up, or the analogy that was given, it was like a burnt over district, because you have all these people who are kind of rootless, and like where you have a lot of development, you often get, sort of wildfire. And this is kind of a cultural wildfire. So you have the anxiety of the technology, the wealth that's created by the technology, but also the dispossession and the mobility of populations. And then people are looking for some kind of message or some kind of anchor in their lives, and turning to religion in many cases. So you have some of the biggest, most prominent religious figures of the 19th century that actually emerged from that very sort of concentrated region of upstate New York in the 19th century. So obviously the significance of the canal system, the Erie Canal in particular, was more than just religion, but I think it's a kind of interesting counterpoint to the economic history that the religion was defining the culture.
So how would you describe the legacy of the Erie Canal?
In terms of the immediate economic impact of the canal, the travel times were slashed radically from 5 or 6 weeks to a couple of weeks to cross across the length of New York. The cost of freight went down overnight by 90%. So it creates really the economic foundations of the American Industrial Revolution. And so if you think we're now in, a new industrial revolution, which I'm sure viewers will have their own views of, in terms of the legacy of technology in America, but we wouldn't be here where we are today if it wasn't for, these kind of bold, big level infrastructure, measures that were taking place in the early 19th century. So as I like to say, the foundations of American democracy have concrete foundations. So, that's really the country we're in today is a direct result of people like DeWitt Clinton having the vision to build on the scale that they built, and everything that followed, good and bad, that came from that.
Thanks for watching. You can find more about the stories in this show at greatlakesnow.org and much more about the Erie Canal at greatlakesnow.org/Erie Canal. While you're on our site, please follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter for more of our